Hey, good morning. It's Mark here with another morning rant. 5:30. Got it at 4:30. Let's get into some news. Hope you guys had a great weekend. My weekend was not so great. It's kind of crazy. Growing up back in the day, the rule is, and this is true now as an adult. Growing up, we all knew that if Halloween fell on a Sunday, everybody would trick or treat on that Saturday. That happened a couple of times with us as a kid. We knew Halloween was on a Sunday. Nobody trick or treats on a Sunday. Everybody would do it on that Saturday. Here I am in Montgomery, and no one trick or treated at all. My 6-year-old was excited, waiting, couldn't wait to go trick or treat, and I was excited for him. So Saturday come around, I'm like, hey Mason, we're gonna wait, we're gonna wait. I don't see no kids out, so I drive around the neighborhood. Maybe I'm in the wrong area, and nothing. So I said, Mason, man, ain't nobody out there. So I take him, I put him in the car because he didn't believe me. I put him in the car. We drive around the neighborhood. Nobody's out. So I said, you know what? Don't worry about it, man. This is Halloween. This is a Saturday. So maybe they do it on Sunday here. So let's go. We'll wait till tomorrow. Sunday come around. 5:30 come around. 6:30 come around. Like what is going on? So nobody trick or treated in my area. Maybe in some other areas of Montgomery, maybe, but in my area, no. And I'm like, oh, that was just so disappointing. And he come downstairs excited, want to put on his Miles Morales Spider-Man suit. And I'm like, hey man, bad news. Don't think we're gonna do it this year, but it is what it is. I felt bad, but I looked at his face. He was excited. He still had fun this weekend, so that's all good. It's all good. As long as he was excited, I'm cool. So let's get into some news. This is gonna be a live reaction to Chris Wallace's Fox News Sunday show. He had Senator Scratch and Sniff, can't remember his name, the former governor of Florida. So anyway, let's just get into it.
Democrats fight amongst themselves over infrastructure and the Build Back Better plan. Republicans have formed a united front with their sights set on taking back the House and Senate in 2022. Joining us now from Florida, Senator Rick Scott, chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
It's nice to be with you, Chris.
You just heard my conversation with Secretary Buttigieg. What's your reaction to what he said and where the president's domestic agenda stands right now?
First, if the Secretary of Transportation wanted to solve the port issue, you'd fly out to the port, you'd sit down with everybody and find out what the problem is, and then you'd go solve it. Typically, the problem is caused by some government regulation or some government red tape. When I had hurricanes in Florida, I had to make sure we didn't run out of fuel, so I was constantly on the phone with everybody involved in delivering fuel, and even though we were selling sometimes 9 times their normal average of fuel, we didn't run out because we kept solving their problem. If you look at what they're talking about with this, name whatever the bill is, all it's going to do is cause more.
So here we go. So right off the bat, he's lying. I did a video, and you can go check it out on infrastructure. Not infrastructure, but I did a video on the ports and what's going on with the supply chain, and how if you mess up one area, if one area shuts down, all areas shuts down. Because again, there are some there. The video that I did, it talked about, and it was an expert. This was a logistical expert, who talked about the ports and with the ports and things like that. And he specified that the logistics pipeline was built for efficiency, and it was not built for, I cannot remember the term he used, but is made to get stuff done faster. And once you shut down one part of that system, you shut down everything. It's not about what Buttigieg is going to do or the government's going to do. It's a larger issue, but he's trying to put it on. Now it's up to the government to try to figure it out and fix it, but he's trying to put it on them as being the cause of the problem. And instead of completing the question, he goes into the bill because he don't want to talk about anything else but the Build Back Better bill. He wants to emphasize how the Democrats are fighting amongst themselves, which is stupid in my opinion. They should not be fighting amongst themselves. But we got two conservative Democrats in our caucus that's messing everything up. It's not anybody else in the ticket, in the line. It's these two, is Cinema and Manchin. But anyway, let's get back into it. He's lying already within the first 10 minute and 10 seconds.
Inflation. You look at what it's doing to poor families in this country with gas prices up 55%.
Okay, here we go again. That's in the next 7 seconds. He lies again. Gas prices are not controlled by the president. I will repeat. Gas prices are not controlled by the president. Gas prices is not controlled technically by inflation. Gas prices is controlled by OPEC. I cannot remember hold on. OPEC. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. And who's the Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries? Right here in the blue. And mainly in Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan, I think. Let's see, what's the name of the countries? It was founded in 1960 by first 5 members: Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela. Since 1965, it hit its headquarters in Vienna, Austria. So those are the countries that control the world's oil supply. And they determine supply and demand. If not that many people is purchasing gas, they restrict the gas supply. If a lot of people, let me see if I got that right. If they restrict it, if not that many people are buying, they reduce supply. And of course, it's vice versa. Don't get me started with the economy and things like that, because I'm not that proficient in it. All I can tell you is that OPEC controls gas prices. Now, inside the gas price, you have a state tax, a federal tax, and a local tax. So if gas is $3, the federal government gets about 50 cents of that $3. State gets about 25 cents, and local get about 12 cents. So go and look at the gas. When you go get gas, look at that sticker on the gas pump. It tells you how much the state and government is getting from that $3. The rest of it comes from the actual purchase of the barrel of oil. So again, he's lying. The government does not control. I will not blame Donald Trump for gas prices. I will not blame George W. Bush for gas prices, because when I was in California, gas was up to $5 a gallon. I did not blame the president for that. I would not blame Barack Obama for gas prices, because gas prices are not controlled by the president.
Go to the grocery store, food prices are up. It's all caused by government spending. And by the way,
No. Oh my God, no, it's not. No. He's talking about inflation. It's not, and that's putting too much money into the system. When there's too much money in the system, it causes inflation, to where prices for things will go. It putting too much money out there decreases the value of the money. So, and if you look at it over time, like, you know how back in the day your mother used to say, or your grandma would say, well, I would take $1 and go in to the movies, go get something to eat, and still come back home with 50 cents. Well, inflation, or the adjustment, you know how people say that he was worth $100 billion, but today he'll be worth $500 billion, is because the $500 billion was worth $100 billion. It's just that over time, our prices have gone up so much that $100 billion don't get you the same amount no more. So again, he's lying again. And this is the first minute and 22 seconds.
if you look at inflation, the border, parents' involvement in schools, military support, there is nothing that they're talking about doing. There's nothing that Democrats are talking about doing that's solving a problem that Americans care about. I mean, it's There's solve the problem for you. This every family, like mine growing up. My
Here we
mom
go with your.
wanted to put food on the table. If inflation hurt her, solve it, fix it. They have no.
He has no idea.
In this administration.
How the hell does he know if inflation hurt his mother putting food on the table?
They're like commentators. Yeah, we're going to have a problem through next year. No, go solve the problem.
Well, that's a real insult to compare them to commentators, Senator. Let me ask you about the infrastructure bill, though, because it's not a political.
How many infrastructure weeks did Trump have? They had about 36 in 4 years. And not one thing was done for infrastructure. When you talk about roads, bridges, ports, he's complaining, but he's forgetting about the fact that the Republican Party had 4 years to do something about roads, ports, and bridges. Infrastructure is more now, even during Trump's time, Obama's time, Bush's time. Infrastructure is more than roads, bridges, and ports. It now includes broadband. It now includes solar wind, solar power, it now includes all of that. We cannot rely on just fossil fuels alone. We have got to diversify and get into other forms of energy. When I was growing up, and if you're around my age, you heard it too. We should have had flying cars in 2000. We just thought the future. We thought the Jetsons was going to happen in 2000. Now, Neil deGrasse Tyson, salute to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says we have flying cars today. A flying car today is a helicopter.
That's real people. And while 19 senators voted for the bipartisan infrastructure plan that passed the Senate with a healthy bipartisan majority, you opposed it. And I want to put up some of the things that
Here we go.
affected in your home state of Florida. More than 3,500 miles of Florida highways are in poor condition. You voted against $13 billion to repair them. Here's White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
This package would extend high-speed internet to every American. Are you against that? Would ensure that children aren't drinking poisoned water. Are you against that?
You also voted against money in the infrastructure bill to help your home state of Florida deal with extreme weather, which you have plenty of in Florida. Why'd you oppose the infrastructure bill when 19 Republican senators supported it?
Chris, I believe in spending money on real infrastructure, roads, bridges,
but that's what this bill is.
There you go. See?
Isn't it, sir?
I spent $85 billion in my 8 years as governor. Right? Let's look at the bill that passed the Senate.
So he's not answering the question. He's not answering the question. He's dodging the question, and he's going into his state spending. The government is promising $13 billion more. Kudos to your $85 billion, but there's another $13 billion out there that can fix 3,900 roads. You voted against it, and you're talking about responsible spending. Is that not responsible spending? The one thing that the government learned, and the highway system was constructed under Eisenhower, but it goes back further. It goes into the 1930s. They talked about making a highway system back then. It's just that in the 1950s, Eisenhower actually put it together and got it done. So that's why when you go around, you'll see Eisenhower, the Eisenhower sign everywhere, the 5-star Eisenhower sign. But what they learned after spending all that money, what they learned is there is no profit in it. The government cannot recoup that money. So even if they tax, they cannot recoup that money. They can spend $1 trillion on roads and bridges, and they can tax to get that money back. But they found out that it's not feasible for the government to spend money on roads and bridges, which is why it took from the 1950s up until like 2008 for them to finish doing the highway system in this country. And now that they finished, they have to go back and repair everything that they started back in the 1950s. So it's like, wow, we're spending money on roads and bridges. We need to, but we have other obligations. So that's what's going on with the roads and bridges. That's why they're falling apart. And the tycoons, the Carnegies and the Rockefellers and the JP Morgans, they had to diversify their spending, and they didn't put that money back into the railroads and bridges. So they used it, spent it, got rid of it, moved on. It's a lot.
It's not paid for. I paid for my infrastructure.
You have to, as a state
I actually paid down.
as a state government, you have to pay for your stuff. You cannot draw too much of a deficit. So for him to brag about that is asinine. You have to balance your budget.
Debt. I balanced the budget.
You have to.
They said it was going to be paid for. It wasn't paid for.
It was.
The bill said it was infrastructure. Less than half of that bill was roads, bridges, airports, and seaports. You put a bill in front of me that's going to be roads, bridges, airports, and seaports paid for. I'm very interested in doing something like that. But I am not going to bankrupt this country. This country has almost $30 trillion worth of debt. That bill by itself was $250 billion of debt. This has got to end. This is causing inflation. I mean, this is hurting the poorest families. It's not hurting the rich. It's hurting families like mine growing up. They had struggled to put food on the table with this ridiculous inflation. Solve that. We've got to live within our means like every family does.
But Senator, you talk about living within your means, you talk about the debt, you talk about deficits. The Trump tax cuts, which were passed in 2017, the year before you were elected to the Senate, is estimated by the Congressional Budget Office that it is going to increase the deficit by over $2 trillion over 11 years. So should the Trump tax cuts be repealed?
My experience is I cut taxes and fees 100 times over.
So instead of talking about Donald Trump and that $1.5 trillion tax break to the rich, instead of talking about that, he goes back to when he was governor. No one cares about when you were governor. You are a senator now. No one gives a shit about your governorship. So stop talking about when you were governor. He's talking about the Trump tax cuts right now and how it's going to add, because they did that and didn't pay for it. Just like George Bush did in the 2000s. He did a $2.5 trillion tax cut to the rich and did not pay for it. He just gave them a tax break.
$2 billion, and I actually balanced the budget and paid off a third of the state debt. You can do both. The way you do it is you look at every line of your budget. I think there's about 4,000 lines in the Florida budget. I went through every line and said, I am not going to waste anybody's money. We've got to do that at the federal level.
But sir,
no one cares about it.
Respectfully, when Donald Trump was president, you had this tax cut, which added $2 trillion to the deficit, according to the CBO, and you didn't have the commensurate spending cuts. So the question is, if you're not going to have the spending cuts, should you repeal the tax cuts if the debt and deficit are so vital?
Well, first off, I am not raising anybody's taxes. I want lower taxes. I want to watch how we spend our money. I've been in the Senate now 2 years and 9 months. The amount of waste is staggering.
Answer the question, man. Answer the question.
The way money is spent in the Senate.
Answer the question.
It's your money. It's not government's money.
He's not answering the question.
Live within our means. I did it at the state level and actually paid off a third of state debt.
There you go again.
Look at every line. Take every line of the budget. Don't say, well, that's only $1 billion. It's $1 billion. That's a lot of money. We should watch how we spend every dollar.
He didn't answer the question.
I want to ask you about a non-budget related issue, but it involves real money. There is a report out this week that the Biden administration is considering giving huge payouts, up to $450,000 per person.
Now let's talk about that.
Families that were separated at the border during the Trump administration. Now, the argument they make is if this goes to court, and their settlements may be even bigger. But what is your thought about that, about paying $450,000 per person to people who came across the border in the first place illegally?
What are we thinking? Why would we be
Now, I'm going to stop it right here and I'm going to explain that. So, yeah, I'm going to stop it right there and I'm going to explain that. Well, I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to get pissed off about it. Because if that's true, if the Biden administration is talking about paying each member going across the border $450,000 per person, that is bullshit. That is crazy. Because There are a demographic of people here who built this fucking country and got nothing for it. Count back from 1865 till now. It's over, what, 100 years or so? Go back to 1965. From 1865 to 1965, 100 years, we had Jim Crow. So when you want to talk about being fully free, black folk in this country has not been fully free until 1965. So roughly 50 years, 60 years, roughly. So if that's going to happen, that will be total bullshit, and I will call it out. I will call it out, because if that's the case, if he's afraid of being sued, if he's afraid of the government being sued, then black folk in this country should get together and do a class action lawsuit against the government. They are more interested. This government is more interested, and I'm not talking about Democrat. I'm not talking about Joe Biden's administration or the government. I'm talking about the government in general. This government is more interested in giving every demographic reparations to include the owners of slaves, but not the slaves themselves, or not even descendants of slaves. So go ahead and play around with the Americans' money like that, and I guarantee you I'll be the first to sign up for a class action lawsuit against the government. Do not give anyone $450,000. Give it to, hell, we can solve the hunger crisis in this country. You can give teachers a higher salary. Don't do it. So if the Biden administration is thinking about doing that, then hey, I'm against it. I saw the report about it, and I'm like, I'm gonna wait and see if somebody else come. I'm gonna wait and let that story build. But if that's the case, it's bad juju. So let me get up out of here. It's 3 more minutes left on that video. I'm gonna stop right here because I'm at 22 minutes already. But I wanted to stop right there and talk about something negative for the Biden administration, so you won't think I'm just all partisan. Even though I think Republicans are fucking hypocrites, and I think Republicans, all politicians are hypocritical, but I think the Republican Party is worse at it. And again, I don't put out videos I used to just talk. But again, I'm glad that I got time in the morning to do this, so I can show actual video of what I'm talking about. I can show you proof. I can give it to you directly, and I don't have to sugarcoat anything. I'm like, here it is. Here's the proof of here's the deficit. Here's the debt. Here's the roads and bridges. Here's this guy actually lying to the American people. So that's why I do what I do. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Bring friends over to the video. Let them know what's going on. Hey, let's interact. I love to interact with people. So in some cases, I don't like typing because there's so much I want to tell someone. I would rather talk to you. So, hey, we can get it in if you want. So, again, today is Monday. It's almost 6 o'clock. So let me get up out of here, people. You guys have a great Monday. Have a great week. And I will see you on the next one. All right. Y'all take care. I'm out.